In an industry where artists fight tooth and nail for recognition, one man decided he wouldn't fight. He would take his own path and build a mountain twice as tall where everyone would see him. He calls himself the African Giant, and with good reason. Today we dive deep into the story of a man who transformed from an outcast of Nigerian music into a global icon. It is a story of a boy who reshaped the sound of a continent and became a symbol of African pride. This is the story of how Burna Boy became the African Giant.
I think I have known since he was probably 13 or 14 that he was going to be great at something. And that thing was probably music.
Before he was selling out arenas, before the Grammys, before Coachella, Burna Boy was simply Damini Ogulu, a kid from Port Harcourt. To understand Burna, you need to know where he came from and what he represents. His story isn't just about music, it's about rebellion, culture, and an unwavering self-belief.
I'm basically the stone that the builder refused. That's when it comes to, being here.
Damini was born in an oil-rich but chaotic city of Port Harcourt. But even more important than where he was born is who he was born to. His grandfather was Fela Kuti's manager. And if you don't know, Fela Kuti wasn't just an Afrobeat legend, he was a revolutionary. His music was a sound of rebellion, a defiance of the status quo, and Burna Boy grew up with that energy in his blood.
Basically, my favorite space is where I come to releasing. Legend, Bob Marley, legend, Chrissy Kuti, legend. My granddad, that's him right there. This is kind of like a family wall. This is my granddad with Fela. This is my grandma. This is my grandma's dad. And this is my mom and Uncle T.
Back in the early 10s, the Nigerian music scene had one formula: make club bangers, get on the radio, and blow up. You had stars like Davido and Wizkid killing the charts, but Burna, he wasn't interested in sticking to that formula. He had something completely different in mind, a sound that blended Afrobeat, reggae, dancehall, and even American hip-hop. He was mixing genres that nobody in Nigeria was really messing with, and for a while, it seemed like the industry just wasn't ready for Burna Boy.
I love the process. You understand? For me, it's like the more the process requires, the more stories I have to tell, So it's all a blessing at the end of the day.
In 13, he dropped his debut album, Life. And let's be real, it wasn't what most Nigerians were used to. Sure, liked to party, run my race, and Tonight did well, but Burna's sound was different, and the industry, well, they didn't know what to make of him.
When he did like to party, he was 19. It was the beginning of his journey. It was a song the style was totally out of place for the environment. And he stuck to it. And, he built his own fan base piece by piece, person by person. For me, that song made the difference because it showed everyone Burna's lane.
The album featured stars like Two-Face, M.I., Timaya, Olamide, Reminisce, and Wizkid. But even with his breakout success, Burna Boy wasn't fully accepted. Some critics argued that he wasn't Nigerian enough and that his music leaned too much on the foreign sounds. At this point, Burna Boy was frustrated.
There's something my granddad always said to me, because he knew who I was gonna end up being, right? And he's like, while you're fighting for Africans and trying to, do all this, use one hand because you're going to need the other hand to fight off the Africans that are going to be fighting you.
And what followed was a period of disillusionment, but Burna Boy is not one to conform. And instead of bending to fit the industry's mold, he went independent, starting his own record label, Spaceship Entertainment. This was more than just a business move, it was a declaration of independence.
Do you remember the time
When you feel the love,
anything, but just something.
whoa.
In 15, he released his second album, On a Spaceship. The album featured guest appearances from Flavor, Kid X, aka Rest in Peace, Wande Cole, Fino, and Wizkid. But despite the star features, the album was met with mixed reviews. Music in Africa described the album as Burna Boy's response to the industry's failure to recognize his previous work, particularly Life. They observed that while the album starts strong with tracks like Oluwa Burna, it quickly descended into a blur of average tunes, largely due to the absence of producer lyric. For most people, the album was viewed as a kind of vengeful poetry aimed at those who overlooked his earlier achievements. By 2017, many people thought his best days were behind him. In 2018, Burna Boy released the album Outside, an album that leaned even further into his Afrofusion sound. This album is honestly one of Burna's greatest works, with hits like More Life, Gidem, Koni Baje, Rock Your Body, Devil in California, Outside, and Heaven's Gate. But tucked away on that album was a track called Ye. At first it didn't seem like anything special, but soon, a case of mistaken identity would turn this track into a global hit. When Kanye West dropped his album also called Ye, fans searching for Kanye's album accidentally stumbled upon Burna's song, and instead of turning away, they embraced it. Suddenly, Burna Boy was being heard all over the world. Outside wasn't just a success, it was a warning shot to the world. For the first time, Burna's music was receiving the global attention it deserved. And while some might say it was just a lucky break, the success of Ye wasn't a fluke. It was a result of years of perfecting a sound that had finally found its audience. The album received critical acclaim from music critics who commended its diverse sound and Burna Boy's versatility. Pulse Nigeria and Nigeria Entertainment Today picked Outside to be the best album of 2018. Outside also won Album of the Year at the 2018 Nigerian Entertainment Award and was nominated for the Best R&B Pop Album at the Headies. This was a Burna Boy who wasn't afraid to be loud, to speak his mind. He started to see himself more than just a Nigerian artist. He was becoming a global ambassador for African music. And that attitude, that rebellious confidence, it all came to a head when Coachella dropped their lineup for 19. You see, Burna Boy was invited to perform at Coachella, one of the biggest music festivals in the world. But when he saw his name listed in small print on the lineup, he wasn't having it.
Okay, so basically, I'm on the toilet seat.
I love how every single one of your stories starts with where you are. I love this.
It's like, you have to be specific.
Yeah,
man.
I was on a boat. I was on a toilet seat. Yes.
I always remember, you know? So basically, I'm on the toilet seat, and then my mom calls me. And then she's like, yeah, you're doing Coachella and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's nice. So I get off, and then I, go on the gram.
Right.
And then I see the thing, and then it's like my name. I've seen all the names, and I'm looking for my name, and I can't find my name.
Right.
I literally can't find my name, right? So I'm like, am I really performing here?
Is my mom playing a prank on me?
Yeah, what's going on? And then she's like, no, it's there. And then they had to circle it for me.
Oh, because like the names get smaller in the poster.
Yes.
Yeah, it'll be like Beyonce, or Eminem, and then yeah. So then it was Burna Boy.
Exactly.
So then what happened?
Burna Boy posted on Instagram saying, I'm an African giant, and I will not be reduced to whatever that tiny writing means. Fix this quick, please. This was a bold move, and honestly, a lot of people thought it was arrogant, but Burna Boy didn't see it as arrogance. To him, it was about respect. By claiming the title of the African giant, he was demanding recognition, not just for himself, but for an entire continent of underrepresented talent.
Like something I think people don't understand is how big Burna Boy is. It's just like, like depending on where you watch news from, before depending on where you get your perspective, you go like, oh, I don't know. But you are huge, you know what I mean? You're huge in a country with one of the largest populations, on a continent with one of the largest populations, you know what I mean? All around the world, and then they put like this.
So,
right.
So I'm not used to that. So I'm like, okay, what's this? I don't like this, no. So basically, I told them, I expressed myself basically, and not just for that, for the fact that everyone else that's coming after me,
right,
it's like shouldn't have to go through that. It's like it should be the same way, like let's say the Latin artists and all the other international people that was there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
They have started bringing like J Balvin will have a bigger font.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, I mean, it's only right, you know?
Right.
So,
And with that bold move, Burna Boy was no longer just an artist. He became a symbol of Afrobeat's growing global dominance. Shortly after the Coachella controversy, Burna Boy released The African Giant in 19. This album was more than just music. It was a manifesto, with features from international stars like Georgia Smith, Damian Marley, Zlatan, YG, and Future. Burna Boy fused Afrobeats, reggae, and hip-hop into something entirely new. African Giant wasn't just an album, it was a cultural shift. It was bold, it was proud, and it didn't hold back. Songs like Dangote became Hustler's anthem. Anybody and On the Low were global hits, while Killing Them featuring Zlatan won Song of the Year, cementing Burna as the face of the new wave of African music. It wasn't long before he won Best International Act at the BET Awards. In 20, Burna Boy was nominated for the Best World Music Album but lost to Angelique Kidjo. Regardless of the loss, she dedicated her award to Burna.
4 years ago on this stage, I was telling you that the new generations of artists coming from Africa gonna take you by storm. And the time has come. This is for Burna Boy.
After the loss, Burna was undeterred. He went back into the studio and came out with the next album, Twice as Tall. This was a direct response to that loss. As a matter of fact, Twice as Tall was Burna Boy's victory lap. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard World Albums charts and won him the Grammy for the Best Global Music Album.
And the Grammy goes to... Oh, come on. Twice as Tall, Burna Boy.
In May, Burna Boy became the first artist from Africa to perform at the UEFA Champions League final kickoff show. He also became the first artist to headline and sell out a stadium show in the United States. Burna Boy's journey from the street of Port Harcourt to becoming a Grammy-winning artist isn't just a success story. It's about defiance. It's about a kid who refused to conform and instead created a movement. Burna Boy has shown the world that African music isn't just a trend, it's a force to be reckoned with. And if there's anything we've learned from Burna Boy's story, it's that the African giant isn't done yet, not even close. So the next time you hear a Burna Boy song, just remember, this isn't just music, it's a movement. A movement that's bigger than just one man. It's the sound of a continent reclaiming its voice. And Burna, well, is leading the charge. Salute.
Bruh, the gifts that you're giving everyone, man, and building bridges for all of us is highly appreciated. I just want you to know that, bro. If you don't know, I want to say it.
I appreciate that.
I want to say it.
That.